What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome in to another edition of the MarinersSUR podcast. We're going to break down the Mariners' impressive win today, 8-1 over the Astros. We will also break down the very, very slim playoff hopes that the Mariners are still clinging to tonight, and we'll just talk about anything else Mariners is going on. As always, before I dive into it, do me a favor, smash the like button, comment your thoughts down below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. I do really quickly want to thank everybody for all the support yesterday. I think it was my most viewed post game of the year, close to 4,000 views. I think most of that from Houston fans, but I got to tell you, all the comments were very kind and cordial, so I really do appreciate it. I am always down for an honest discussion about baseball. I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words, and I'm not here to trash talk anybody. I'm here to have nice civil talks about the game that I think even as rival fan bases, we all love together. So truly thank you, everybody, for the kind word and support. It really does mean a lot to me. I've got MarinersSUR with me today. As always, the link to his Twitter will be in the description down below. Highly recommend going and following him on Twitter X, one of the best Mariner accounts on there. How you doing, my friend? Good series win, but the odds are slim for our boys.
Yeah, no, doing well. And like you said, yeah, we're pretty easy at this point to know what needs to be done. It's pretty simple. Yeah, and congrats on the big show. I did watch it this afternoon and saw all the views and comments. And yeah, it seemed like a lot of really friendly comments from the Astros fans, which is
really nice.
Which is cool. Like you said, we're rivals with them, but you have to respect what they've done. They've been on quite the run. I mean, one of the probably best dynasties in baseball history, if not honestly. So as much as I want to beat them, you do have to tip your cap to them because they've been, year after year, they seem to find a way. And this year, especially, it was impressive what they did to overcome that terrible start.
Yeah. And they're a team that, I know a lot of people probably won't pick them. I would not want to play them in the playoffs. It's a team that knows how to win in the postseason. Even though Verlander might not be at his best, it's still a team that I wouldn't put it past them to make another run to it. It really is an impressive organization. Between the Astros and 49ers, it's someone's always got to be there to give us a little bit of grief. But no, it really was, and I appreciated all the kind comments. It really meant a lot to me. And like I said, we all love the game of baseball, and I didn't get a chance to watch the game today at work, listen a little bit on the radio here and there. Take me through what you saw today. A really nice win for the Mariners. Maybe a hungover Astros team, but we'll take it.
Yeah, it was a good win. We definitely, I thought, came out, flat. You say the first 5 innings completely shut us down. I mean, just we weren't getting anything going on them at all. Then in the 6th inning, we pushed a couple across. I don't think any of the runs were earned, though. Their third baseman, Whitcomb, had a rough day. I think he had like 4 or 5 errors, honestly. Anytime the ball was hit to me, either fumbled it or threw it away. So that definitely aided in a few runs. But yeah, once again, kind of once we got to their bullpen, that's not their big 3 or whatever you want to call it. We swung the bats well. Garver had a nice home run in the Crawford boxes. Julio got to his 2020 season off of Hector Neris, which is good to see. They had their thing at the end of last year where Neris kind of attacked Julio and said something to him. And I did see Julio post-game said they worked it out over the offseason and they're good now, which is good to see. But yeah, kind of slow at bats to start the game, but then really put some good ones together in the back half of the game. And then Kirby kind of had a grind, but a really good outing. And then the bullpen, Chargois, Snyder, Saucedo, and Gabe Spire finished it strong the last 3 innings. So yeah, good win. Good to see him bounce back after a tough loss yesterday and to keep the very, very slim hopes alive. But yeah, another, dominant win from this team, which we've seen a ton of lately. That hasn't been the issue for him. It's been when they get in these tight 1-run games, they've had a hard time finding a way to win, which will probably ultimately be their undoing. But yeah, in terms of today, it was good to see him get another win and at least go into tomorrow with slim hopes alive.
Yeah, yesterday on my post game, I said I didn't want to see Garver or JP anymore this year. I was still frustrated. Of course, Garver has one of his best games of the season, and I think JP actually had a pretty kind of couple hits today as well. So, as typical fashion, as soon as I say something like that, those guys decide to go off. But to your point on that, the offense continues to have really a solid September as the Mariners really have overall played good ball in this September, and they finish a good road trip. They go 4-2 here. They win the series in Texas. They win the series at Houston. as well. But, you look at the two games and the point you just made, they're winning the blowouts and they're losing the close ones. And, listen, there's plenty of games we can look back on. I think the Angels are going to be the one that always sticks with us. But, if they win Sunday and they find a way yesterday, they had chances late in the game. This is a team that's probably in a pretty good spot to make the playoffs. What's going on in the one-run games? Do you have any idea why they're not winning these? Is it just that's baseball, or is there something, the bullpen injuries, or what do you think it is?
It's hard for me to put my finger on just one thing because I feel like every game's been a little bit different. You have yesterday, it's a home run off of Gilbert in the 5th inning. The Texas game, I know Munoz led up the game-winning hit. I don't remember exactly. Oh, they had the big inning off Wu in the 6th inning, so kind of the starters at the end. But I'm sure there's been a handful of games in there in the one-run games where the bullpen gives it up late. So I can't. It's hard for me to put my finger on just one thing, and it's not the one-run losses of early in the year where we lost 1-0, 2-1, and it's like, yeah, you're going to lose one-run games because your pitching so good, but your offense is awful. I was looking with Dan, we're 18 and 13. Well, 11 of those games, 10 of them are one-run losses. The other was a 2-0 loss to the Cardinals where it was tied 0-0 in the 8th inning. But I think 5 of those one-run losses, and we're 5-10 in one-run games with them, we've lost 5-4. And so it's not, like I said, those 1-0, 2-1 games. It's been the offense has done decent, but then just, a home run here or there. But it's been against the starters and bullpen. So I think it's hard to put it on just one thing. But I guess the common theme is I feel like in those games we've had chances to add on even more and score 6 or 7. And yesterday was a good example of that where, 3 times, I think Garver twice and JP once got a runner on third, one out, and they don't get the job done. And I feel like that's been, different players. We've had that issue where there's a chance to add on or maybe tie it up or take the lead late and we just don't do it. So the offense has been a lot better lately. And, every team kind of has that where you're going to lose those one-run games. You don't get every run in, but for us, it's kind of magnified because we've needed to stack together wins. But yeah, unfortunate to go 5-10 under Dan in one-run games. But yeah, I think it's been kind of a variety of issues, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I forgot who it was. It might have been back in the day. I think Dave Cameron of USS Mariner, formerly of USS Mariner, talked about it, that what one-run losses tend to be blamed on bullpens a lot, and it's not always the case. It's not. I think, there seems to be this notion that, like, oh, good bullpen will win one-run games, bad bullpen you'll lose them, and it's not always how it works out. To your point, it's been in Texas, it was a 5-0 lead, and Brian Wu struggled to hold it. And the bullpen ended up giving up the run, but they didn't, a 5-0 lead. Wu's got to hold that. You got to win. Yesterday, the bullpen was fine. Bullpen was actually better than the starter, but the offense couldn't get, that big hit in the clutch situations. And Logan, quite honestly, was not great. So, then you do have games like the St. Louis one where Logan was fantastic and the offense doesn't score. So I think it's just a bunch of different things, compounded. And, I hate to say it, I know fans don't want to hear it sometimes. I do think sometimes those one-run games come down to, did the ball bounce off the bag for you the right way? And, the Mariners certainly, I don't think, have gotten a lot of bounces. Now, again, I'm not making an excuse for them. They deserve what they're getting for how they played over that stretch. But I think everything just kind of put together, some sloppy baseball, some bad situational hitting, and just a little bit of the bad bounces. You put that together and you're not going to win a lot of one-run games.
No, yeah, completely agree.
How was George Kirby today? The final line looks solid for George. And after a little bit of a shaky August, September, he's bounced back nicely. He was solid tonight or this afternoon. His last start, he was good as well. He's really good against Texas. I think both times in his last 2 starts. So Kirby's bounced back nicely. What'd you see from him today?
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty good. They're kind of high pitch counts early in the game. And obviously he was facing a lineup without Altuve, Jordan, Tucker, and then Bregman, I think, only took 1 at bat. So a little bit easier of a task. But yeah, I mean, he performed very well. And like you said, yeah, he last outing against Texas, 7 innings, shutout baseball. So a really good finish to the season for him after a rough August. And I think I heard on the post-game show that he had either 3 or 4 starts against Houston this year. Yeah, it looks like 4, and in all 4 of them, he went 6 innings and 1 run. So yeah, I mean, he really performed well against Houston this year, which is great to see. So yeah, a good finish of the year for Kirby. Kind of, what you expect from him when he's on his game. Just really can shut down lineups if he's staying out of the middle of the plate enough. So yeah, very good finish of the season for him.
Yeah, and good to see, like I said, because there was a few starts that was just really shaky, hurt the team. So good to see him bouncing back, and that will be his last start of the year, barring a miracle playoff run here. Before we talk a little bit about the playoff scenarios, do want to ask your thoughts. One thing that's kind of caught my eye is if you'd have said before the year, a concern you would have in September, I would have said Brian Wu and Bryce Miller are wearing down a little bit, and I trust Castillo, Kirby, and Gilbert. Well, Castillo got hurt. That's not his fault, but he's been out. Kirby has been better last few starts, but has been a little shaky. And even Logan, to be honest, I was disappointed in Logan Gilbert yesterday. He needed to be better. Now, Wu wasn't great in Texas last time out either, but it seems like Wu and Miller have actually been the ones that have kind of stood up, and the other guys have dropped off a little bit. Do you have any take on that? I mean, anything with Logan Gilbert? Just kind of interesting how it's kind of gone reverse of what I thought might happen this month.
Yeah, I would completely agree. You'd expect him. Yeah, Wu's last two starts weren't good, but up till then he was fantastic. And Miller's really finished the season unbelievably strong. And yeah, for them being their second full season for both of them, yeah, you would expect a little bit of wear down. And yeah, like you said, Kirby, a rough month in August. I think Castillo maybe even had a few kind of rough starts in August as well. And Gilbert, yeah, just wasn't. And I don't have the stats in front of me, so I could be wrong, but it seemed like he kind of stumbled down the stretch a little bit as well. And we saw this last year with the rotation in September too, where they kind of struggled. And I know last year they were going to go to a 6-man rotation for a couple turns through, and then Emerson Hancock got hurt, so it threw that plan out the window. So maybe that's something they look to do next year, is when you get into that kind of mid-August to early September, first or second week, maybe you do go to a 6-man rotation in hopes that you can prevent this, because this has been the second year in a row where at least a couple of the starters haven't finished strong like you'd hope. And it's a long season. These guys are taking all their turns, so it's not a huge surprise. And so maybe something I'd like to see them do next year is incorporate a 6 starter, at least for a couple times through, just to give these guys an extra day here or there to see if that maybe can help them avoid hitting the skids a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. And we've seen Emerson Hancock's good enough. He's going to keep you in the game for 5 innings. I think they've won both of Hancock's starts since he's come in for Castillo, so he's clearly done enough for the team. I mean, Bryce Miller's just been phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about Bryce Miller. And yeah, to your point, I mean, not only are these guys, I think Logan, Kirby have made every start this year. I think Miller has as well. And they pitch a lot of innings. These guys go deep into games. And their minimum 6 innings, it seems like every start. And Logan hasn't been awful. It's been a lot of like those 6-inning, 4 earned run games with 2 home runs. They're just killing the team. And it's like I said, it's not, I didn't think he was terrible last night, but just not good enough in what felt like a must-win game. And I don't want to stand here and, like I said last night, like harp on Logan Gilbert. The guy might be the team MVP, but just disappointing down the stretch because the offense started to play better and the pitching did tail off a little bit. Anything else you want to add about the rotation or anything from the game today that you saw that stood out to you? Julio, obviously the home run, Garver, and the offense in general, just a much better September.
Definitely. And yeah, so Logan Gilbert in September, I pulled up his stats, 4.60 ERA. And in 3 of those, he went 6 innings and let up 4 runs. And the other 2, one, he went 8 innings, 2 runs. That was a loss in St. Louis, not his fault. And the other was a 3-2 win in the Yankees, 5 1/3, 2 earned runs. So he only had, out of his 5 starts in September, only 1 quality start. 3 of them let up 4 runs. We lost a 5-4 game to Oakland, and then the 4-3 game to Houston. Like I said, the 2-0 game to St. Louis. So yeah, definitely not his best month. It looks like, basically tied for his worst month of the season. So not awful by any means, but 1 out of 5 quality starts from Logan is not something that you'd expect. So I'm sure he would even agree to that he didn't finish in his last 5 starts like he wanted to.
Oh, 100%. I think he'd agree with that. And like I said, not terrible. That kept you in the games. You've had chances to win every single one of those games. But I think that Oakland one's a perfect example. The team jumped out 3-0 there. Oakland can swing it a little bit, but you felt like that was a game they should have won there. So, just little things like that. And we look at the margin of error has been super thin. And that's a good segue into the dwindling Mariners playoff hopes we're still alive as we record this. We remain alive, but going to need a lot of help. I'll go through it real quick, then I'll get your thoughts on it. So for anybody listening, the Mariners, obviously, AL West is over, as we found out last night. The Mariners obviously have to win out, and then they need Kansas City or Detroit to lose out, and then Minnesota's got to lose 2 of their remaining 4, 1 against Miami, 3 against Baltimore. So just to reiterate, it's Kansas City and Detroit both don't have to lose out, just one of them, and then Minnesota's got to lose 2 more. So Kansas City has 1 more in DC, then they travel to Atlanta. They are probably the most likely team to lose out because Detroit hosts Tampa, and then the White Sox, which, yeah. Where are you at? What's your thoughts on the Mariners? Still alive.
Yeah, obviously not a ton of hope. I think for one, as we've seen this year, Oakland's, they can swing it well enough. So I think it'll be a tall task for us to sweep them. I think we can certainly do it, especially the way that we're hitting now. Against their pitching, I don't see any reason we can't go score runs to win those 3 games, but it's hard to sweep anybody. So that's kind of first and foremost. The Twins, they need to finish 2-2. I think that's doable, but then they're going to face the Orioles this weekend, who don't have much to play for. So I think they're probably a coin flip to go 2-2. I think it's possible, but not super likely. In terms of the Tigers, that's going to be tough. The White Sox are just awful. Looks like they did win again today. I think they need to lose. They need to win out to avoid the worst season ever. So they do have a little something to play for, and they push Crochet back to Friday, but not likely. And the Tigers are just on a roll. The Royals, though, we did catch a little bit of a break there today. The Braves' next 2 games got rained out. So that's going to push Chris Sale back to game 1 against KC, and then Max Fried for game 2. So I would not be shocked if the Royals were to get swept. The Braves are going to score some runs now. I think they're going to have their 3 best pitchers going. So if the Royals somehow can lose to DC, who hasn't scored a run in the series against them, I think there is a chance. Once again, it's hard to sweep any team. So that's a game I'll be watching. Is if the Nats can knock them off, I'll have a little bit of hope. Just because I think it'll be very tough for KC to beat Sell or Fried. So if they lose tomorrow and we can take our first 2 games, I would not be shocked at all if on Sunday, we're maybe tied with DC and KC and need them both to lose and us to win. So a little bit of glimmer of hope, but I just don't know if I see the Nationals beating KC. But once again, if they do tomorrow, I will perk up a little bit because I do think the Braves can sweep KC for sure. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, not likely at all.
That's where I'm at. And just to give Mariners fans more sunshine, rainbows, hope, our season lies in the hands of Patrick Corbin tomorrow. So
lovely.
He did, I think, pitch pretty well against the Mariners. Maybe that was last year that he did that. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, if the Nationals can win tomorrow, I will say, I'll perk up a little bit. Not going to be super optimistic. Yep. But I do think there's a chance if the Nationals can win tomorrow. I know Detroit could lose tomorrow too. The White Sox, I can't in good conscience think they're going to go in and sweep Detroit. To your point with the pitching matchups, the Braves could. I think the Mariners can sweep the A's. We do see the Mariners step up for big games. So with the season on the line, it wouldn't shock me if this team does go out and sweep Oakland here to finish it out. But at the end of the day, I think this all together, and then you still need the Twins to lose too. So, I'm looking at maybe 2 to 5% odds. I don't know what the actual probability is, but that's probably where I'm at. I just want this. Listen, just get me to Friday with a hope. Yep. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't want it to end on an off day going in. At least give me some hope going into the weekend that this could happen. That's all I ask.
I'm with you. And I think the games are in Atlanta. So, Friday, that game should be over by the time we play. So, yeah, you hope that Chris Sale does his job. And then, if we win Friday, we move on to Saturday and just kind of go from there. So, yeah, let's hope that Patrick Corbin can lead the Nats to victory tomorrow.
Yeah, we're literally at that stage where I'm not even like the game. It's just each day that you survive, you're still alive. So we'll see if the Mariners can survive it tomorrow. Got 2 chances to keep the season alive. So then we'll see what happens. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit with this one, but it'll be a fun one. As the season dwindles down, more than likely this is going to be our last in-season video. We'll definitely be doing some off-season breakdowns together, I'm sure. Give me your favorite moment of this. Listen, it has not been a great season. I think we are all very, very disappointed with how it went. We expected this team to take a jump forward. I predicted them to win the division. It's been very disappointing, but do you have a best moment, not to put you on the spot, of the season? It can be something small. I know you go to some games, maybe it was something like that, or maybe just any memory to you that was your favorite of this season.
Yeah, I think I'll give you two. So I think the first one for me was I was at the Braves game, where kind of it was fairly early in the season. So I think I still had some hope that Polanco and Garver could pull out of it. In the ninth inning, I think AJ Minter came in. Polanco got a single, and then Garver hit a walk-off bomb that landed about like 5 feet from me. So that one was exciting. Probably favorite moments in that time. I was like, all right, these two are going to get it turned around. And if they do, I think we're in good shape. Obviously that didn't happen. But at that time it gave me definitely a lot of hope moving forward. And it was just cool to be there for a walk-off over a really good Braves team. And I think number two would be probably the game one win over the Guardians when we went to 44-31. I think we kind of blew them out that game. We were like 2 games out of the best record in the AL. After that game, I mean, the vibes couldn't have been better. I thought we were really headed for a special season. So I think those were my 2 favorites. What about you?
Yeah, I think the Garver home run has to be up there. It was just, the Mariners have been shut down all day by Max Fried. I don't even know if they had a lot of base runners. And then Polanco gets that single. Garver had really been struggling. And just his reaction to that home run, it was the type of game that it reminded me a little bit. Obviously, it was much later in the year, but a little bit of that game against the Braves in 22 when Gino and Julio had the home runs. Because to me, that was sort of the game in 22 when I knew. I mean, they were in good position for the playoffs, but I was like, this team is going. They're winning these type of games. So again, this was April, a little bit different, but same kind of vibes for me, a little bit like that. And I think the Texas sweep, when they swept Texas the first time, I think they got up to a 9.5 game lead. We've seen this team constantly fail in series like those when a division rival comes in. So I think those were probably the 2. I think the Braves game was the most exciting game. Sunday Night Baseball against the Mets was another one that was a really good moment. I mean, there's been some fun walk-offs, that White Sox series, but the White Sox kind of stink, so it's more of a few than it was, oh my gosh, we won these. But there was quite a few. It was definitely some fun moments this season. The Philly series was fun, for sure. Do you have a team MVP for the 2024 Mariners?
It's a good question. I mean, I want to give it to Victor Robles, but he hasn't been here for the entire year. So I would probably say, I mean, you could give it to the entire staff. That's an easy answer. So I'll stay with the lineup, but I'm going to say Luke Raley. He really started the year and didn't perform well, but a lot of that was he just wasn't playing much at all. And then once he started playing a lot on April 15, his numbers have been fantastic. And it's been like pretty even performance. He'll have his games where he goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, is kind of the player he is. But when we traded for him, I didn't think he would replicate his 130 WRC plus from Tampa last year. A lot of that was kind of inflated from a really strong start to the year. And so I just feel like he's been a very reliable player. And I thought he'd be a really good addition, but I think he's kind of outperformed what I expect. And like I said, it's been pretty even performance since he's took over the starting role. So I'd give it to a pitcher, but I think you could give it to all 5 of them. Honestly, they're all sitting there like I guess Bryce Miller's under 3, but kind of similar ERAs. They've all been just fantastic. So yeah, I'll go with Luke Raley. Kind of a maybe uncommon answer, but I think he's been, like I said, for the guy that's been here all year, I think the most reliable hitter. What about you?
I love that Luke Raley answer, and really a super underrated acquisition. For all the talk of, Jerry had a rough offseason, and I agree, the Garver Polanco acquisitions didn't work out, but Luke Raley has worked out phenomenally. Like you said, a lot of his numbers were carried by a strong first half last year. And I do think Caballero was kind of an underrated player for the Mariners. I think people kind of viewed him as just whatever, but solid player. And I like that answer. And it's crazy because he kind of lost his job to Dom Canzone in the spring, which I'm going to again kind of push back on Scott maybe a little bit, even things like that. Like now, maybe that was a Jerry thing too. I don't know. But I think that's a great answer. He's been steady from day one, clutch, and just a super easy guy to root for. And his bunt against the White Sox would be another great moment. That was a tremendous moment. I don't have the WAR leaderboard in front of me. I'm going to assume Cal leads the team in wins above replacement level. So I think Cal would be the easy answer. I'll go a little off the beaten path as well. I'm going to go Bryce Miller. ERA under 3, probably not even leading the staff in WAR. I imagine Logan probably does. But I really was kind of lukewarm on Bryce Miller heading into this year. I didn't dislike him, but I kind of thought he was a number 4, number 5, which under club control is fantastic. Nothing wrong with that. But man, the year he's had, and there's been, in fact, I think he's gotten better as the year went along. Early in the year, all the talk was about, well, he's great at home, but struggles on the road. Now he's dominant on the road. And that performance with the season on the line on Monday was tremendous. ERA under 3. I'll give it to Bryce Miller. I mean, Cal probably should win it,
right?
But I like both answers. I think Rayleigh and Miller are two really good calls there. So
I
really
remember
like
on
that.
Rayleigh the beginning of the year. I kind of was thinking about this the other day in terms of like why they went Canzone over him. I almost think they were so like hyper focused on reducing strikeouts that they were like, look, Luke Rayleigh last year, and he had a bad spring too, but you shouldn't really put too much stake in spring results. But I almost wonder if they're like, this guy struck out 30% of the time last year. Canzone was 15%. Like we're really trying to minimize strikeouts. And then all of a sudden the lineup struggles to start the year. And I think there maybe was an injury too. I think Canzone hurt his shoulder. And so they kind of had to put him in, but I almost wonder if they were too over focused on reducing strikeouts. And because you look at what both those guys did last year, it should have been an easy decision to start Rayleigh to start the year. So I kind of wonder if that was part of their thinking that they maybe miscalculated on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it was, I do. I think they kind of got in their own heads about those things. That's interesting call it the strikeouts. I hadn't thought about that. And like I said, I think they put a little too much stock into the spring training. And listen, Canzone was, acquired in a fairly big trade as well. So I get trying to get something out of him too. And I wasn't super against it or anything. I wasn't sitting there shouting why are they doing this? But you look back on that one and definitely a little bit of a miss there. Another name I'll throw in. They're certainly not a team MVP, but listen, I've been wrong on a lot of things this year. But I'll pound the table for Justin Turner. A tremendous deadline. Jerry kind of nailed the trade deadline, honestly. Randy's been pretty solid. He's had some tough moments and clutch spots. I think makes him look worse than he's been. I mean, Justin Turner, I'm at the point, and I'll ask you about it. Bring this guy back on a 1-year deal. I mean, you have a hole at first base. I think Rayleigh loses a little bit of value playing first base every day. I think you're better off with him in the outfield. What's your thought on that? Turner back for another year? Talk about some stuff you mentioned to me about, he's one of those cage guys that you like to say.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be a good, and when they brought him on board, I kind of was like, I don't know if, I think he'll be solid this year, but didn't even think about him for next year. But yeah, at this point, I'm fully on him. He played well for Boston last year. I think he got off to kind of a slow start for the Blue Jays, but I mean, he's been fantastic. He doesn't really strike out at all. Just a professional hitter. He will be 40 next year, but I think he's just such a smart hitter, and his bat speed's already one of the worst in baseball. Like, I don't know how much more it can really go down. I'd be down to bring him back for sure. And I'm trying to think, I think it was a pregame show today. They were, talking about how most players stand on the sides of the cages, and they're like, Turner's always right behind it, like right by Edgar. And then I think it was Raleigh had mentioned to Shannon Dreyer that like, this guy's not just a teammate too, he's like a coach. And then even Kirby in the post game today was asked about Turner, and his response was like, I wish I played with this guy for a lot longer. I've really enjoyed playing with him. I know he's helped a lot of guys out, and like, I couldn't speak higher of him. So yeah, if he wants to play for another year and enjoyed his time in Seattle, I think it'd be a great idea to bring him back. Like you said, next year he'll go in with Randy, Julio, Robles in the outfield, but it's not a bad idea. I mean, what if Robles kind of takes a step back and you need Rayleigh and right? And then if he doesn't, Rayleigh's at first, Turner DH. Like you said, I think Rayleigh does lose a little bit of value there. And if somebody else steps up, like magically Garver hits well and can take DH, it's not a bad idea to have Turner is a guy that plays 4 times a week, a couple at first, while Rayleigh goes in the 3 different outfield spots, a couple days at DH if Garver needs to go. I mean, there's room for him, right? We have kind of a hole at first and DH next year. And he shouldn't cost a ton. And I think they saw when they let Santana go, it kind of created this void in the clubhouse. And so I wouldn't expect a ton of production from next year, maybe 110 WRC plus, maybe even 100. But, it's just another professional hitter that'll put the ball in play and is very well liked and seems to make his teammates better. And so I think, he'd be a great fit to come back if he's open to it for sure.
Yeah, like I said, definitely, going to be 40. That's a great point about the bat speed because it's something I've talked about. Like, well, I'm not sure because of the bat speed. It's already awful, and he's still productive. So,
Exactly.
it can't get any slower, and he still produces. So I don't see, and he's not relying on power. He's going to hit you 10 to 12 home runs. So I guess, listen, everyone's going to hit a wall at some point where they can't play anymore. But I don't see anything in his game where I'm like, oh, he's not going to run the bases. Well, he's already not a fast runner. He's already not a great defender. So, I could totally get it if you don't, but I think they made a big mistake. We've talked about Carlos Santana, I think, more than anybody. And I think it was a big mistake to let him walk. I think they got cute with it. Pittsburgh jumped in, and I think it really affected the club. I think Santana was a huge veteran presence there. And it sounds like, I don't listen to the pregame as much, but it sounds like Turner's kind of been the same. I don't think you make the same mistake. I think you bring him back. And listen, okay, he stinks, fine. You can put him on the IL with a phantom injury. He's a coach the rest of the year. And if you fall out of it, Justin Turner will get you something at the trade deadline. It may not be anything fancy, but a guy in a 1-year deal making $4 million that's been to World Series and is running a 110 WRC plus, someone will give you something for him. So I don't think there's a lot of downside. I mean, the downside is John Stanton and company are super cheap, so spending money on anybody is risky. But the flip side, they're not going to go out and get the Juan Sotos. They're just, I'd be blown away if that happens. So you got to look lower, and I think Turner's a guy that fits in pretty well here, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is you go into the offseason with the hole at third. I'm sure Rojas will be non-tendered. If not, that's still a spot you should look to upgrade. I doubt Polanco gets extended a contract. So now you're looking at like Ryan Bliss at second. First base, maybe Rayleigh, but to your point, it's not a bad idea to have him the out. So, I mean, I guess my point is you're going to have a hole at third, second, first, and DH. And to your point, you're not going to get premium free agents at all those positions. And so if you can get Turner on like a relatively cheap contract, potentially plug one of those, I think it's worth it. Just because once again, you're not going to go get 4 free agents that cost a lot. So at some point you're gonna have to get a free agent that costs $4 million. And I guess my point is I'd rather Turner at $4 million versus somebody like, I don't have a good example. I don't know, Donovan Solano, for example. Like you're gonna have to backfill with somebody like him, maybe not as old, but I would take him over a 32, 33-year-old that's going to demand $4 million, I guess. So there's just if there was only one hole, say at first base or DH, I'd probably say maybe don't fill it with him. Let's go get somebody like Ryan O'Hearn or I don't know. Probably a good example is him. So yeah, I think he's great to fill one of those 4 holes that we likely do need to go address in the offseason.
Yeah, and that's a great point. There's multiple holes on this team. Like I said, if there was one hole, I mean, Carl Santana will be available as well. Wouldn't be against that either. But yeah, if there was one to fill and everything, fine. And I know people are like, well, it's going to block Tyler Locklear. Not really. If Turner struggles, it's easy to move on and bring up Locklear. I don't think you go in with him as your everyday first baseman next year. Like I said, you're already a spot right now where you're probably looking at someone at third base. I mean, realistically right now, it'd probably be Dylan Moore, probably not who you want there every day. And then, like I said, Bliss at second. Now, that's not necessarily what I want, but like I said, you've got to plug in the hole somewhere, and it can't all be superstars. You're going to have a 110 WRC plus guy there that is going to produce. So, if not Turner, I'd love Santana back as well, but I think either one of those guys really helps the team on the field and off the field as well. Any other thoughts as we head into the final weekend of the season?
I mean, bummer that the season's likely coming to an end. It's always fun to have baseball on every night, no matter how good or bad the team is. Hopefully a miracle can happen, because if not, it's going to be, it's a frustrating season. I think the team is better than what their record is, but they've deserved what the record is that they've had, playing the Angels like they did that 1-8 road trip. I mean, there's a ton of, things you can point to. But even like this finish of the season, I think shows that I think they're more capable than they showed during that 50 game stretch. And, the lineup since then's been, I think, top 5 in baseball. We're trending to like being the 10th best WRC plus over the season, which that's not the end all be all, but yeah, just, I mean, a very frustrating season. So hopefully a miracle can happen to kind of wash that away. Yeah, because I'm not ready for the off season just yet, especially since I don't think we're gonna have much money to spend. So I think the off season will be a little bit frustrating if I had to guess. But regardless, I'll be excited for spring 25. But yeah, still got a glimmer of hope. So I'll hold on to that until it's no longer there and then kind of put my sights on to the off season. So yeah, go Nationals and Corbett, and then we'll go from there.
Yep, one day at a time, one day at a time. But yeah, well said. I'm in the same boat, and I think it's going to be an off season that fans are not going to love. I'm sure by the time spring rolls around, I'll be as optimistic as possible and ready for this team to hurt me yet again. But I think it's going to be a lot of hoping for some bounce backs from some guys and more consistency. Julio, I'm looking at you, stuff like that for 2025. So we'll see. We'll see. There'll be something. Jerry's going to have something cooked up, good or bad. There's going to be some roster shuffle, no doubt. So we'll be here. We'll break it down when it happens. Thank you again to everybody for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, for being along with us on this journey. Like I said, this will probably be our last. If they do happen to get in, I'm sure maybe we'll do a playoff preview series, but that could all be shattered tomorrow. So one day at a time. Hopefully they keep it going. Like, comment, subscribe. We will see you guys all next time. Have a good one. And as always, go Mariners. Peace.